Welcome to Analyzing Finance with Nick. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the economic future of Peru and why Peru is struggling between two counterweighting forces in its political economy and its social hierarchy that is causing some limits for its upside potential. Peru is one of the first parts of South America to develop civilization with the Inca Empire. It is blessed with an abundance of natural resources. It is the second largest producer of silver and copper in the world, and also a leading producer in other minerals such as gold and bauxite. And on top of that, another natural resource that Peru is abundant in is fish. In fact, 10% of all the fish caught that is for sale on the open market come from the coast of Peru, which I did not know prior to starting this video. And the tension really that Peru is struggling with is, do they try to have a long-term plan for their economy and open it up to foreign trade and institute a lot of neoliberal and pro-market reforms, which cause a lot of inequality and social tension in the short term, but lead to longer term prosperity? Or do you use the resource wealth to address the immediate poverty concerns that there are right now? Like, Peru is outside of Lima, is a very rural country. It has a lot of rural poverty, and these people are in abject conditions, and the poverty rate did improve a lot, but the last few years, due to a lot of political tension and the impact it's had on the currency, and also just the less demand for mining and minerals due to slowing growth in China, a lot of the gains of the previous 20 years of free markets have been eroded. We've seen this really in Peru is with its politics. You have one side, you have the elites, both in the business and political elite, who want to align with the US. They want to open trade internationally, and they want to institute more neoliberal free market reforms to have a long-term path to growth. Like, the Peruvian economic model is kind of like the Chilean model light, and it works when it is uninterrupted. The problem is you have this strong populist contingency on the other side, which is most of the rural poor in Peru tend to support, that says, hey, look, by the time all of these reforms are done, I may not be alive, and I'm struggling to eat and to have basic needs now. Why we need to keep the natural resources, the property of the state, and not allow privatization. And we need to use the benefits of those natural resources that we're selling to address the needs of the poor now. And that is kind of the root tension in Peruvian politics, and that's why it's so heated. And corruption is also a problem in Peru. But as somebody who's not really an expert in the history of Peruvian politics, I don't really know which side has a problem with it more or the other, or has the extent of politically driven arrests in Peru been due to legitimate malfeasance or just witch hunts. Like, if you look at the statistic on this, every single president in Peru since 1985 has been prosecuted with something, and over 4 of them have been arrested and convicted in prison. In fact, they had to build a special prison for arrested and convicted presidents, which has the capacity for 3 of them at a time. And until a recent one got his sentence ended, they had, with the current last Peruvian president to get arrested and convicted, they almost had a capacity problem. That's how bad it was. And if I will have this all cited in the description, but it's kind of crazy to think about. If you set the precedent of just throwing charges at your president whenever your side loses, or you want to institute some sort of political change, it could set a bad precedent, like in Peru, where you have this happening pretty much to every one of their leaders. And again, I think a lot of them probably did horribly corrupt and bad things. I don't know, again, the legitimacy one way or the other of these charges, but the fact that you have such a track record of presidents getting arrested, it's kind of like governors in Illinois. If you have 4 governors in Illinois in the last 20 years, all go to jail, it's a sign of your political system being dysfunctional, and it's the same with Peru. And the problem is, again, the two sides have completely opposite goals. You have the economic populism, which, as we see in other parts of Latin America, doesn't turn out well, but in the short term, it pleases certain interests. And a lot of Latin America has low pain tolerance, and to reform their economies to be more globally competitive requires a tolerance for economic, social pain and the acceptance of having inequality, which is usually a tough thing to stomach in a lot of these countries. And so if Peru can straighten out and depolarize its politics to a certain degree, then they have a lot of upside. If they cannot, and they keep getting stuck in these in their political uncertainty, scaring away foreign investment and just causing a lot of social tension and business uncertainty, then they're going to continue to struggle. And it's basically, you have the forces of, on one side, trying to put a Chilean model, and the other side trying to put on a Venezuelan model. We'll see what happens. And I'd like to conclude these videos. We're going to have a comparison of Peru to a US state. And for this one, I'm going to compare Peru to Kentucky. I've never been to Peru or Kentucky, but they're both on my list of places to visit. Peru has a population of 34 million versus 4.5 million for Kentucky. Their GDPs are about the same in nominal terms. Peru's at 268 billion, Kentucky's at 260 billion. However, their GDP per capita is quite different. It's $7,700 US per year in Peru versus 57,000 in Kentucky. In terms of Fortune 500 companies, Peru does not have any, but Southern Copper, which is a major Fortune 500 level company who's headquartered in Mexico City, has a big presence in Peru, with some of its biggest assets being Peruvian copper mines. Kentucky has one technically, which is Humana, but they also have Yum Brands, which may not make the threshold since they spun off their Chinese division. And they're both very into sports. The most popular sport in Peru is soccer, and in Kentucky, that is college basketball. And they both have major worldwide tourist attractions of interest. Peru, it's a lot of stuff involving Inca culture, such as Machu Picchu, which is the picture here in the background. People around the world go on hikes to see one of the 7 wonders of the modern world. And the other side, for Kentucky, it's a lot of sports and recreation type things. Kentucky's famous for its bourbon. It's famous for the Kentucky Derby, which is a world-renowned horse race. It's the first of the Triple Crown. And Kentucky also has, again, Kentucky and Louisville basketball, which Kentucky is historically one of the, up there with UCLA, North Carolina, and Duke and Kansas, one of the blue bloods of college basketball, which attracts people to the state. And then the whole Kentucky Derby, obviously. And Louisville Sluggers, too, are in Kentucky. And with that, that wraps up our thoughts on Peru. I mean, if you like this, feel free to share, like, and subscribe, or mention it on other social media platforms where it is relevant. Thank you for watching.